Jessica Nicole Dickerson, aka Jane D, and welcome back to another video. So in today's video, I'm wrapping up the 30 books in 30 days challenges. I am so happy that this challenge is done. Oh my god. It was hard to say the least. On average this year, I read 4 to 5 books a month. So to go from that to reading 30, the stress was high, but I also had lots of fun and learned a lot about how quick I can DNF. I learned a lot about myself, and I can't wait to explain it all to you. I did want to do a quick shout out to my Patreons. I freaking adore you, and during the month of November, if you join, you get an exclusive bookmark. If you join the $5 or $10 tier, so definitely check it out. But let's get into all the reviews for the 30 books that I read in October. Yeah. This stack, I don't know, I'm impressed. I'm so happy with it. But you might notice is there's not 30 in this stack, so I'll get into that. Everything is split up into genres. This was a weird month because I actually dove into a lot of different genres that I normally don't. Getting into the one that I read the most though is YA contemporary. I managed to read 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 YA contemporaries. I'm going to start off with my DNFs because if you watch the vlogs, and make sure you check them out because I obviously talk about these books in way more detail in the vlogs and you can see my reaction while reading them, but I did DNF 4 out of the 6 books that I was reading. Isn't that wild? Oh my god. Okay, I think it's very telling that, especially because I read so many different genres this month, that, you know, me and YA contemporary, though we are tight, we are not that tight anymore. I need a break. It's not me, it's you. So I believe this was one of the first DNFs of the month, and it was Calling My Name by Leora Timani, who wrote another book that I really love, All the Things We Never Knew. Romantic, super cool, super quirky, one of my fave contemporaries, to be honest, and this is her debut novel. This is about a young girl who basically is going through puberty. Her family is very religious, and I think she's starting to realize that she has romantic interest in other people. I got about 30% of the way through this, and I realized that because the character didn't know too much about herself and she was growing, I didn't care for the moment-to-moment life. The story was unfolding, and I was like, she's just growing up, and I just wasn't into that, so I DNF'd it. What was the next one I DNF'd? Oh wait, oh my gosh, I think I put this in the DNF pile. I did not DNF this. Let me brain check. I DNF'd 3 out of the 6. My bad. I think the next one I DNF'd was Ace of Spades. If you don't know, I've been trying to read this book for the last few months since it released. I give this book a lot of praise and I do recommend it to a lot of people. A lot of people love it, and I can see why. The writing is so fun and it's so easy and it's so fast-paced. So I get that, and I think that's why I managed to get 240 pages into this. But for me, I didn't like the reality. I just couldn't believe in it. So if you are the type of person who likes kind of that Gossip Girl energy where there's a lot of just like betrayal and misunderstanding. There was one relationship in here between Chia, the main girl, one of the main characters, and a boy, and I could not understand for the life of me why she kept trusting this dude. Could not. And it started to really bother me, and I just decided, you know what, I'm not enjoying this, so I'm gonna put it down. And that's my new rule with books. If I'm not enjoying it, if I'm passively reading it and like skimming and trying to just get to the end, I don't need to read it. The next DNF that I had was Permanent Record by Mary H.K. Choi. I'm so sad. So sad. This is a story about a guy who works at a bodega. He wants to go to NYU. He went for his first year, but like financially couldn't support it for the second year, so now he works at a bodega. And one night, just so happens, this celebrity comes in. I forget her name, but she is like a Disney Channel pop star kind of girl. They meet at the bodega, they trade jokes and snacks and all that stuff, and they fall in love. And then we spend the rest of the book, I read about, how much of it did I read? I got to like the 42% mark. I was listening to the audiobook and I was just like, if you enjoy stories where the characters fall in love quickly and you get to see them together and like struggle through life together, then you'll enjoy this book. Oh my gosh, there were 3 amazing contemporaries that I read this month. I don't remember the first one out of them. I believe it was The Perks of Being a Wallflower, which I know I am so late, but this was so good. If you're like me and you haven't read it because you're like, what if I don't like it? What if everyone hypes it for no good reason? Nah. It is so good. It gives me that feeling of reading Fangirl by Rainbow Rowell, Strange the Dreamer, where it's like one of those books after you finish reading it, you're like, I want to be a writer. I want to write good books. Books that make me think. And it's just crazy because this is just a book of letters that he writes to a friend. And it's just about him experiencing life in his freshman year. There are trigger warnings for like loss of friends, suicidal ideation, sexual assault. There's a lot of trigger warnings, but I do like how kind of observing life and kind of going through the motions. So I feel like everyone can get something from this book. It's not super overly masculine or super toxic. It's just this guy figuring out the world and his place in it. So there is something for everyone in this book. 5-star. I need to reread this. I'm so enamored by this story, and the movie was really good too. The next book made me cry so much. Oh my god. Perks of Being a Wallflower surprisingly did not make me cry. The Weight of the Stars had me crying several times. Like, I kid you not. If you like a story where the romance builds slowly, that it is not the main plot, it's just something that happens to the characters, I think you will love this, because this is definitely a story about love, but in all facets. Not just romantic love, but like love for your family, love for your friends. This is a story following a main girl who kind of brings in lost people, brings them in and kind of creates a home for them. So she has this ragtag group of friends that are kind of weird, and a new girl comes to her school. This girl happens to be the daughter of a woman who went out to do this space exploration mission at the age of 18. So the girl gave birth to the kid and left them behind, and then left for this space journey, which is supposed to be an endless journey, like just keep traveling through space until the end of time, until the end of your human life, and record all the knowledge that you can. And it's supposed to be this honorable mission, but it left behind a person and their family and them trying to recuperate the pieces. So the main girl is like, I see you, broken girl, I want to help you, let's join my team, let's be friends. And there's just so much to it. The thing that made me cry so much wasn't even the main two girls' relationship. There's so much in the family and love, and it was so good. I will again reiterate that this is not a science fiction, even though it looks like it. It is a YA contemporary, and the focus towards the end becomes romantic, and in the beginning it's all about kind of self-discovery, facing consequences to your actions. The main girl learns a lot. So it's just a really nice journey if you like a slow burn romance, and if you really like discussions about people figuring out themselves and figuring out life. I don't know how else to explain it, but damn, did I cry a lot. This light is getting so obnoxious. What are you doing? I feel blinded now because of that light. Wow. The last YA contemporary that I read was I Believe in a Thing Called Love. And I'm so excited. This was a 4-star book. This is a story about a girl who has failures. So she fails horribly at love and flirting so bad to the point that she publicly embarrasses herself a lot because of it. She's never had a boyfriend, so one day she decides to follow a K-drama ruling on how to get the boyfriend, how to bag the boy. It's really fun. This is one of those stories that you have to suspend your like belief a little bit, being like, she is going crazy trying to figure out how to get this guy to like her when she could maybe be herself, but she so wholeheartedly believes that she will fail without a concrete plan that she literally makes a plan and goes for it. And mind you, it's a K-drama plan. You know, when they fall into near-death experiences and coerce each other all the time. It's wild. It's wild. But what I kind of love about this is that it does still feel believable, because it expresses why she feels the need for control, and that is also the reason why it's not a 5-star. The ending was definitely your classic romantic comedy, I forgive you, let's continue dating kind of energy, which I was expecting, so I'm like not disappointed by that. You should go in knowing that it's going to be romantic and gushy, but the journey is so fun and silly. Like, you cannot not have fun. Those were all the YA contemporaries that I read. As for the YA fantasy, I read one YA fantasy, and it is Akata Witch by Nnedi Okorafor. This definitely feels more like a middle grade, so just so you know, because I didn't know that going into it, the characters in here are 12, 13, 14, so it's can be considered young adult, but it just feels a little bit more middle grade than young adult. This gives me Nevermore feelings by Jessica Townsend, where there is a non-magical person and they realize they are magical and they have to learn about the whole world. What's really interesting about this book is the learning of the magical world. It's so crazy. It's so like any other fantasy. It's really, really cool. And it's all placed in Nigeria, which is also awesome. And that's also the cool part. It's not like Nnedi was just telling us all this stuff and information and info dumping. This book was wild because it was just like, let me throw you into crazy circumstances so you can learn magic. Okay, go. So me as the reader, I'm like, just as confused as the main girl, and it was just so fun. The first 250 pages are magical, perfect, exciting. This is a 4-star though, because I feel like the last 50 pages kind of rushed beating the bad guy, but there are more books in this series, so I'm kind of excited to see how we learn more about the world and the big bad people in it. But it was quite enjoyable. Okay, next category is still young adults. I have adult books to go through too, but we have now like young adult sci-fi. So starting with A Wind in the Door by Madeleine L'Engle. I'm sorry, I don't know how to say her name properly. But this is a science fiction middle grade story. We're following the same main characters of A Wrinkle in Time. So if you haven't read that book, it's a quartet and this is the second in the series. I really enjoy this series. I really want to continue reading it. I'm trying to buy the versions that look like this, so they all look alike. That might not happen, but it's just really fun and enjoyable. It's a fun science fiction where I'm learning about mitochondria, and it's really fun. It's about a group of kids who learn that there are these creatures out there trying to destroy humanity, and they have to figure out how to fix it. So it kind of feels like Akata Witch, but just a little bit more science-based. There are dragons in the twins' vegetable garden. That's the first sentence. It's just a fun, magical middle grade. So I highly recommend if you are looking for middle grades that are fun, magical, involving science, it's just a good time. The next science fiction that I read was Warcross by Mary Lou. And this was actually, like, for me personally, it was a 2-star read. I'm going to unhaul this book now and Wildcard because I had both. I was really looking forward to this. I enjoyed Mary Lou's Young Elites and Kingdom of Back, so I was kind of expecting to enjoy this, and I didn't. I'm so sad. So this is a science fiction that focuses on a girl whose father died when she was young, and she becomes orphaned, and she becomes obsessed with this game called Warcross, which was invented by this other guy. At the age of 13, he invented these really cool, like, transmitted glasses that instead of projecting games, like, you know how there's those thingies, I'm forgetting the terminology for it, but it's like alternative reality or something like that, and you normally have to have the picture in front of you. Instead, he created it where it like connects to your brain, and your brain creates the image so it feels really real and you can smell and have senses. Very cool. The main girl is really struggling with rent and bills and debt, so she becomes a bounty hunter, but she is still struggling to get money. And she breaks into a Warcross tournament and tries to steal something really valuable to make money and be able to not get kicked out of her apartment. And the guy who created the game notices her, hires her as a bounty hunter to find out who's fucking with his game. Not enough was happening. There was so much, like, the romance kind of came out of nowhere for me. Like, they went on a date and like kind of liked each other, and then now like the whole worlds are turned upside down, and I'm so scared for you, and don't worry about money, I have your back. And like, it's like, okay, but the one reason why we cared about her circumstance is that she's like us. She broke as hell and she needs help getting out of it. So, and she didn't have anyone to trust, and now she has all her teammates who she can trust and talk to, and it just kind of happens really easily, where we're told that she's broke and that she's struggling, and we're told that she doesn't know how to trust people and she doesn't believe in people, but then she does. It just, everything happened very quickly. Again, if you like romance, you're gonna enjoy this for sure. Romance, and with a speckle of science fiction, which was really interesting. Whew, I've been talking for forever, my bad. Okay, moving on to the adult books that I managed to read, and let's start with the one that I am unhauling. Some of you guys are gonna scream at me, I just know it, and I apologize deeply. I wanted to love this book, and I did give it a 3-star. This is just not a book that I would want to reread, and I want to have my collection be filled with books that I want to reread. And by that, I don't mean that I actually have to be rereading all of these books, but I'm not going to keep a book unless I liked it enough that I would reread it in the future. This is a 3-star because I get the messaging and I understand what Toni Morrison was doing, but this is her debut book, and in the author's note, she also kind of explains her methodology for this. And it's probably why I didn't like it as much. This story follows a vast variety of characters in this small town, one of them being Piccola, a girl who's kind of empty on the inside, and she lets people push their ideas of beauty. You live in a world where blackness is ugly. Piccola so desperately wants to belong and feel loved. Trigger warnings for sexual assaults. There's also pedophilia in here, animal cruelty. There's a lot of trigger warnings, and for me, I'm normally okay with those aspects. I'm not okay, like I enjoy them, but normally they don't affect me because I know that they're crucial to the story. To me, it kind of did not feel crucial. It felt like these bad things were happening, people were being assaulted, and then we got a justification for why that person became a rapist. And I'm like, I don't think that was Toni Morrison's idea. She was just painting a reality, that this is the reality of the circumstance, which I get. It's true, but I also didn't like that it was kind of, it felt sympathetic, and I don't sympathize for that. I understand that being black and oppressed can lead people to doing bad things, but this is inexcusable. You're a dad, you're someone that someone relied on, or it's just, there was like 3 adult men who were terrible in this book, and I'm just like, it's inexcusable. But it does play a part to why girls like Piccola want to change. It makes sense. I didn't enjoy it, and I feel like the lesson of wanting to be different just didn't come across very well, because the narrative story follows so many different people and you don't really get to know them. And for the people who were predators, we found out they were terrible, and then we got a backstory about why they were terrible. Like, this is how they grew up, and this is why they hate themselves, and this is why they behaved the way they did. So I just didn't enjoy that aspect. I hope that makes sense. I still think it's an impactful story. Beware the trigger warnings. I can understand what she was aiming at, but I kind of like Native Son a little bit more because I feel like it actually makes me question whether or not to sympathize someone who's become a murderer, who's become this horrible thing because of the system they're in. The next 2 adult books that I read were fantasy, and boy were these good. Okay, so first we have Uprooted by Naomi Novik. This fantasy was so cool. It felt very, it felt like a whole trilogy shoved into one book. There's so much action and world building, and there's just so much happening. It's very intense just from get-go. It's just like, off we go, and you won't be able to breathe or have a moment of peace until the book ends. It was crazy, and that's why I give it a 4.5, because at one point, like 300 pages into it, I was like, I need a break. There's just so much happening, and it happens all so fast, and I'm like rereading, I'm like, what's going on? But it's still so engaging and so much fun. Basically, this story surrounds a girl who lives in this village. In this village, there's a wizard who is called the Dragon, and he picks a girl every 10 years to kind of work for him in his castle. So they get taken away from their family, and because of that, the family village doesn't really ever get that girl back. Even if she comes back 10 years later, she's disgraced. She's been living alone with a guy in a tower for so long, so it's just like a forever goodbye. It's a really big deal when these girls go. The main character doesn't think she's going to be selected because she's clumsy, she doesn't know how to cook, she doesn't know how to clean, and one of her best friends is like super gorgeous and like great at everything, so everyone assumes she's going to be picked. And then she's not, and our main girl's picked, and she's struggling. The last adult book that I read was the Brown Girl Book Club pick, which is The Year of the Witching by Alexis Henderson. So this was a great book. I gave it a 4-star. It's kind of similar to Uprooted in a sense, where there is this curse that's happened upon this land and the main character wants to break it, and her mom is kind of tangled in this history of the wood. It's not called the wood in this one, I forget what they call it, but basically in the city of Bethel they've kind of excluded themselves and they don't talk or commune with other cities, so it's just people in Bethel, and they're very, very religious. There's a lot of like religious parallels in this. There's so many rules based off this religion that they follow, and when this curse hits this city or this village, it really wrecks them, and they're trying to pinpoint who is the sinner that's causing all of this, and the main character kind of thinks it's her, kind of thinks it's like something, and she wants to figure it out. And she's starting to question all the beliefs that are put onto her since birth. Are they fair? Or are women and children suffering at the behest of men? And the men are using God as an excuse to be powerful, to use their power. There are trigger warnings for sexual assault. It's not depicted on the page, but it is mentioned, and there's a character. Yeah, there's adult themes in this book. The last few books are comic books and mangas. So I will briefly talk about the comics. I do have a Patreon vlog where I read all of these and I give you my thoughts, and it's just a really fun vlog in my opinion. So again, if you sign up for my Patreon, you get an exclusive fall bookmark that I showed earlier, and you get reading vlogs like the one where I read all these comics. So I read the new DC Teen Titans series. I reread Raven and Beast Boy, and then I read for the first time Beast Boy Loves Raven. These are just so nostalgic because I love Teen Titans so much. I will say I think Raven is a like 4-star. Well, this is okay. If I had to give star ratings for this, I would give this a 3-star. I'd give Beast Boy a 4-star, and then I would give Beast Boy Loves Raven a 3-star. This first one I think is good. The pacing's a little too fast for me. I get a little confused when we're jumping from location to location, but I do admit that Raven's story is a lot more complicated. She's forgotten who she is. She's trying to learn that she's half demon and learning her powers, and also having a romantic relationship, and also getting to know her new mom and sister. There's a lot happening, but it's definitely enjoyable. I love the art style and the storytelling. And Beast Boy is a 4-star because this one's way more fun, and I have a better grasp of the side characters. Every character feels important to the story and the plot. This is a story about Beast Boy, Garfield, learning that something's wrong. Like, he's not gaining weight, he's not growing, something's up, and he's trying to figure out why. And he's also dealing with the fact that he wants to feel cool. He does want to be tall and get the hot girls and things like that, and he's pushing himself in a way that maybe his best friends don't agree with. They're like, hey, how about you be yourself? We like you. And he's like, nah, I need to be cool like them. It's definitely, I think, a little bit more of an easier story than Raven, and that's why the storytelling's a lot more, I don't know, fun and inventive, and the side characters are very whole beings, whereas they weren't really in Raven. So definitely enjoyed Beast Boy. I think this was one of the best ones yet. To be honest, I really enjoyed it, but I can't wait for Starfire's story to come out. Starfire is my favorite character. The last one is Beast Boy Loves Raven, which is, I think, my least favorite out of all of them, just because if we're gonna continue this series, it would be nice if the romance was a slow burn. But as you can tell from this video, that is my preference. Not everyone likes that, but this is definitely a comic book to establish their relationship, Beast Boy and Raven. And it just would have been nice if they were able to struggle together and learn about each other, and then fall in like later. Not even in love, in like later. The last 2 comics that I read were Avatar: The Last Airbender, The Lost Adventures, and the first volume of The Promise. So this one is just goofy, fun stories about the adventures that weren't told in the TV series. So a lot of bonus chapters from each series. Super fun. I gave this 4 stars just because it's just it's a fun time. This last one, this volume takes place right after all the events in the series. So if you watched The Last Avatar or Last Airbender, it's a wild time. War has just ended, but really has it though? And I like that the comics are exploring the difficulty of keeping peace. It's wild. And we're starting to learn about Zuko's mom, which is what I wanted to learn from the series ending. I was like, we need another season so we know what happened to Zuko's mom. The comics are where it's at. Still don't have answers. This is just volume 1, where I'm at the tip of the iceberg probably. But it was really fun. It does get a 4-star because, again, the romance between Aang and Katara just was like, you know, hey babe and hey love. A little force-fed in my opinion. Also, the drama of this was so high. It's like, we're going back to war now, and I'm like, whoa. The last 13 books that I read, I'm so proud of myself for hitting the 30 books in 30 days. I am exhausted though, don't get me wrong, but I'm so happy. I read the 13 volumes of House of the Sun, which 5 stars all around. I just can't praise this series enough. It just gives me so much joy. This story is all about age gap romance. That's the trope. There's a girl who grew up in a home where her parents weren't around. They both got divorced, and whilst they were married, they just had an unhappy marriage. So when the girl's young and they're not spending time at home, she's just home alone by herself a lot. And she had these neighborhood friends, this family with 3 kids and 2 moms, not 2 moms, 2 parents. And she goes and visits them, and she really enjoys herself and learns about family and stuff through them. But then the 2 parents pass away in a tragic accident. So the 3 siblings get split apart, and this young girl kind of loses her friend connection. And this guy, the older guy in this household, is trying to hold down the fort. He's like, I want my parents' house that they built and paid for to last. I want my siblings to come back. I want us to all live together and just be together. And it's so sweet. Then the main girl, now in high school, realizes that, you know, her dad doesn't really want her around, and he's remarried and has a kid with the wife. I don't know if that's his kid with her, but whatever. So she decides, you know what, I'm gonna go live with my childhood friend. He is 23. She is 17. There's an age gap. There's a big old age gap. But, or is it 23? He might be 26. They might be, I think they're like 7 years apart. They are a decent chunk away from each other, but they grew up together. Like, they saw each other as friends for so long, and there's a romance brewing between them, and it's just so sweet. And what I love about shoujo manga and romances when it comes to mangas and animes, it's like, it's all about the slow burn. It's not about them dating at the end. It's about them kind of finally revealing that they like each other. And this one is just so sweet because it's not just about the romance. It's about home and doing what the other person needs and being supportive of each other. And there's so much more to it, and it's so nostalgic, and it makes me so happy. Those are the 30 books that I read in 30 days. I really hope you enjoyed this wrap up. It's probably really long, so I apologize. If you made it to the end of this video, comment down below this emoji so I know you're the real MVP, and make sure you subscribe, like, and hit the notification bell so you don't miss my next reading challenge. Again, huge shout out to my Patreons, and make sure you check out the special offer below if you are interested in supporting me, getting extra content, or getting an exclusive fall bookmark. I hope you enjoyed this video, and I hope I gave you a little bit more sunshine. Bye. My leg has fallen asleep. Save me.